Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Horatio, and today we are going to review another one of my early photographs to see what I like about it, to see what I might change, and to apply ultimately all the things that I've learned during my 1 year as a photographer. And all my editing skills and photography skills will go through all of that. So what we have today is, again, I'm still using the XT50, the Fujifilm camera XT50. Not necessarily sure. Let's see what we shot it on. We shot it at XF 35mm f2. Uh, and then we shot it at ISO 500 at 35mm at f4 at 1 over 1250. Again, at the time, these numbers were kind of irrelevant to me because I didn't know what they meant. Right? I didn't know what the ISO meant. I didn't know necessarily what the focal length would do to my picture. Uh, f-stop, definitely, I didn't understand it. So even with all of those things, as an early beginner, again, this is my second one. As a very early beginner, I was able to capture this photo. I thought it was cool. I thought there was a lot of elements in the picture that I would like. I like the Canadian geese, all facing kind of one direction. They're all looking the same way. They have the same kind of pose. In the background, so we have a foreground that's interesting. We have a middle ground that's it's basically water. But toward the middle ground and the background, we have a family feeding the geese and the seagulls. I think those are seagulls. So we have a cross species feeding frenzy going on, and I thought it was interesting, so I took it and I thought, hey, this is pretty cool, right? So I do think, unlike my other picture, I think the content of the photo it was good enough to take. It's interesting. There are things there. So this is the edited version of it, and we'll see the big difference. So this is the raw file. The raw file, as you can see, I did a little bit of a crop, and I definitely played around with the color grading, and I played around with the haze and the dehaze. I could already tell, like, these people, I did something to them. I can't really tell. Sure, even the geese, they're a little bit more touched up. So I was trying to implement a lot of the principles of Lightroom editing here. And I think I did okay. I think I like this picture way more than I liked the picture from the first review. So what do I like? Again, I like the composition. I like the elements of the photo. I like the geese. I like that they're kind of at the ledge and they're following a kind of a line here. I like the interesting aspect of the family in the background. We have a family of geese. We have a family in the middle ground background. We have just, that the very moment where spring is about to break out. It's still winter. It's like February or April or March. I forgot what day it was actually. Let me show. It was in April 13. You could see that it's about to, explode into spring, but very much winter foliage. Um, I like the calmness of the water. It's not, you know, green, neon green. It's not crazy blue. It's a nice passive color for the time. The sky, so that is one thing I am noticing really quickly that the XT50, I mean, no, is it XT50, yeah, doesn't really do the sky well. Like I was never happy with the way that the sky turned out. Yeah, because and as you can already see, it's very kind of washed out and muddy on the raw file. So what would I do here? Again, I think the crop is pretty decent. So let's always start off with the crop. And again, because we're doing Instagram, we're doing 5x4. Uh, Again, okay, so what do I want? Always ask yourself, what do I want in the shot, in the picture the when I do the crop. So again, like I don't really want this poop or it just doesn't look good. So definitely right away, immediately, we can cut off a lot of it right there. And we can make this super dynamic, right? Um, we can further bring this in. Oh, wait, but first off, always, let's go back. Original, always put on the lock, 5x4. Put this here, and then yeah, there you go. Here. Again, there's not much on the left-hand side that I care. This is not super interesting here. If this allows me to, there you go. Okay, so now we get a lot of, got rid of a lot of the nonsense here. We got rid of a lot of the crap at the foreground, which I think I did leave. I did leave. Yeah, I did. So I did leave it there a lot. So there's the crop. So again, tighter. So we're gonna say, okay, this is tighter. A much tighter crop, right? This is much, 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 much tighter. Uh, we lose a lot of the information of the context. We lose a lot of it. Unfortunately, we do lose a lot of information in the context of the actual scene itself with the tighter crop. However, what we lose from context, I think we gain from storytelling. Now the storytelling of the family of geese and the family feeding the geese and the seagulls comes to the fore much more obviously. You know, now what am I telling? Am I telling a scenic moment in time over this big, large pond? Or am I really driving home towards the viewer that, hey, look at this family, look at this family. There is a sort of parallel going on there of wildlife and humanity sharing the same space, one helping each other, one observing the other. Because as you can see, the little boys watching birds, and these guys are kind of watching other birds, and they're just living their life. So that's kind of what I would, envision the crop to say. Again, composition. You gain a lot by the crop. I think it's very important. Sometimes I don't crop. Most of the time I do, because again, I kind of like following the principle of what do I want to what do I want to show someone? What do I want the picture to contain? All right, so let's go ahead and do a quick edit here. I'm not going to go crazy. So on the light, I'm looking at my histogram. Not a lot in the darks, not a lot in the lights, a lot of information in the middle, which is very good because that means I captured a lot of information in the middle and I could do stuff with it. So but unfortunately, again, the limitations of the camera here. Uh, the people are kind of very, very, very pixely. You know, they're kind of blurry out because again, this is a 35, and I'm cropping in. I'm using an APS-C camera, so again, I lose a lot of the detail already. And the big problem that I have here, if I increase the exposure, uh, the washing out effect that I already have in the picture, it kind of gets magnified. So I would like to do half a stop, but that's very washed out. So what I'll do, maybe 25. Yeah, I'll do maybe 25 is good. Contrast, I think we're okay on the contrast highlights. Again, the sky is dead, so whatever. Shadows, I think I like the shadows how they are. Whites and blacks, I think that's fine. Temperature, now here's the temperature. Uh, I think I'm gonna cool it down. Yeah, that's a little bit too much, so I'm gonna cool it down to 52. Yeah, 52. I think that's good. That gives me a good base of operation here. Let's go look at my other one. Yeah, it's like, yeah. See, these colors are not very natural. This is looking a little bit natural. Again, the time that I shot it was maybe like what, midday, so there was a little bit of harsh light even in the winter. Um, let's see here, tint. I'm just gonna check real quick. Okay, maybe I add a little bit of tint to 15 to balance things out. Vibrance, I don't use vibrance anymore, but I'll throw 5 in it. Maybe if I can get a little bit of vibrance in the girl's jacket and the browns. All right, color mixer. Let's go to color mixer. Let's see. What do I what colors are here? So there's a little bit of yellow here that if we drop the saturation, it kills alive. So I think I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. We're going to add a little bit of orange to it, just a little bit, just to shift it towards the orange, just give the image a little bit more impact. Because ultimately, I think because our main colors are browns and oranges and blues, we're going to lean into the good old orange and teal, or orange and blue. Because I think ultimately, I think that's what I was trying to do with this image, but I just went crazy. As you can see, it's not very realistic. All right, on the tint, so we did that. Okay, so I kind of really like this orangey blue for the water, so I'm not even going to change it. Let's go to color grading. Okay, so on the shadows, there's not a lot of shadows here, so let's go with very slight, very ever so slight blue, and the highlights will go not orange, maybe yellow. Even red looks good. I think I like the red. Yeah, I like the red shifting away from the orange toward the red. Why? It brings out the brown in the geese. A very natural brown. In the midtone, let's see what we can get in the midtone. So we can go blue. That's a very kind of artistic color here. In the midtones, looking a little bit aquatic. And again, it preserves the feeling of coolness. It's still very cold. As you can see, the people are kind of very bundled up. Actually, midtones blue looks good. I don't really usually like it, but yeah, because this feels a little bit too fall. If I put it in oranges and the reds, it looks a little bit too fall. If I put it in the blue and make it very, very slight, if I can catch it, it still preserves the coolness of the scene. So that's pretty nice. All right. So texture, again, this picture is already blurry as hell. It's already very soft. Like I'm already used to my Sony A7CR, which is very sharp, and I'm using like a GM lens. So going back and looking at these Fuji films, I'm like, wow, okay, I don't need to reduce the clarity. I don't need to reduce the texture. It's already kind of built in there. There's already kind of a graininess to the picture, which is kind of nice, actually, looking back at it. All right, so clarity, I'm not going to touch any of this. Lens blur, not going to touch that. Sharpening, overall sharpening, I'm going to go maybe 16. Remove chromatic aberration, do all that stuff. All right, so what's going on with this picture? It's a lot brighter so far with the first edit without the first edit without the whatchamacallit? Without the masks. As you can see, it's a lot more realistic here. We're not going crazy. Again, on your first edits, you're just going to do some things that are going to be cringeworthy because you don't know what you're doing. Like, I like this kind of true to nature, true to reality shot way more than this, even though this is much more stylized. This is kind of nice. All right. So the only thing I want to do is introduce a little bit of a point curve here. Here. Let's do this. Do this. Do this. What if I drop the shadows even a little bit more, less. Just to pop, just so it could pop a little bit. And now because we did that, the water is a little bit of teal. There's a little bit of teal. I don't like the water, so we're gonna go here to blue. Where is it? Here, let me check. Yeah, actually, we can remove a little bit of it. We go to blue. I think it might be in the greens as well. Yeah, there you go. That's a little bit better than what it was, because that water was kind of crazy. Look, that water was kind of crazy. If I look, yeah, there you go. That's a little bit better. And again, I haven't changed much. It's mostly the crop. So there you go. The water is back. It's not as crazy teal and green as it was. I like the colors so far. Okay, so now we're gonna go move on toward the masks. Let's go ahead and do a radial gradient. Yeah, let's do it this big right here. I'm going to invert it. Okay, and then I am going to drop the exposure just a tad, just to create a faux, some faux vignetting. And you know what? Actually, I'm gonna duplicate and invert it, and I'm gonna upgrade up the exposure toward the middle. I'm gonna up the contrast a little bit, and then I'm gonna go the clarity maybe 5 to 10 clicks. Dehaze, I think we're good with that. All right, so let's go to masking. All right, so that looks a little bit nicer. It's not the huge effect, so not the biggest effect in the world, but it is there. Let's go to linear gradient, because again, I don't really care about this foreground that much, so we're gonna darken it with, yeah, we're gonna darken it with some exposure. Now, there's some kind of haze going on over here in the sky, and the sky is just absolutely destroyed. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to actually not dehaze, because dehazing, yeah, okay, you get a lot more clarity and you get a little more color, which is kind of nice. You get a lot more color, right? But it looks horrible. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna lean into the fact that there is some haze going on in the picture. So now this is a lot more haze. This is a lot darker. So it goes dark, bright, hazy. Again, trying to think in layers. This is the first layer. This is the second. Even this kind of radial mask thing kind of shows it. This is the first layer. I mean, the linear gradient. This is the first layer. This is the second layer. This is the third layer. What else do I want? Again, back then, I would have gone into these characters and then I would have sharpened them and I would have raised the contrast. I would have tried to make them more clear. And I don't think that's something that I'll do, because they look kind of alien. A lot of people like masking individuals and then raising the exposure. They kind of look like angels at the end of the day with like this halo on them, which looks kind of weird. I wouldn't do that. Honestly, I really love the fact that you can see the feathers on the geese pretty damn well, and there's a lot of contrast to them. And so I'm not even going to touch them. They're not the most clearest, but I don't want to ruin it. And I think that's basically all. Again, my style of photography is very kind of true to life and accentuate what's accentuable and decrease what is not accentuable, you know. Show what's special about the image. Don't try to create something special about the image. Now I think we're done here, honestly. So this is the reformulation of the picture that I would take again. Composition, I'm okay with the composition. Again, if I was really nitpicking and if I had to use my experience, I would wait. I would wait on this scene to develop a little bit more. How could it develop a little bit more? Maybe if this four geese were over here, like over here, so that they're not kind of behind this kind of branches. If these were doing something else, maybe if the kid was like sticking out his hand, I could have waited and captured that. This girl, it was jumping. Maybe I could have caught her in midair instead of like falling toward the earth. That would have been a little bit more interesting. So I definitely could have waited a little bit more, and it could have been a better picture. But I'm pretty happy. But then, if I would have waited, here's a trade-off. If I would have waited, maybe these guys would have not shared the same pose anymore. Maybe they would have moved around. One might have looked one other way, and the other one the other way. So, you know, pick your poison. So this is the OG picture. Again, this is very Instagram 2012-ish or Instagram 2016. I forget which year. Very Instagram filterly, and I don't like it. There's some sort of merit in there, but it's kind of dark and it's kind of smeary. It's kind of the colors aren't realistic. Much better. I think there's a lot more balance here. You can really see the subjects. Against the crop, I got rid of a lot of the crap. And honestly, I probably could do a little bit more here with where's this one? Where's not the crop, the mask? With this one, I could destroy the texture. I could destroy the clarity. And then, what happens if I go all the way? It becomes a little way too blurry. But still, drop the textures, drop the clarity. Even increase the, just super darken it. There you go. Just make it a lot darker. I think that's pretty good. That's pretty much it. That is how I would re-edit this picture from this to this, placing a greater emphasis on the story of the narrative that I'm trying to tell, a greater attempt to use the colors that are available and not introduce colors that are not there, a nicer tapering off of the shadows. The shadows are kind of weird here. I don't know what the hell I did. But here now the light kind of tapers off the animals. There is darkness, there is light. Is that all? I don't know what the hell this is. Uh, Pretty much. So thank you all for watching. We'll continue the series later on. I hope you enjoy it. Take care.